much fog in your head. I know you tired of feeling like, I tried and it didn't work. You know, I know you at that point where you just feel like, I'm just ready to give up. I'm just ready to give up. I know a lot of you been at this point where you like this, with everything on the world, this all you can do is this right here, right? The problem is that young to middle age adults, especially, don't understand how to fail into success. They don't understand that they have too many doors open in their head, and that is why it feels like your head is about to explode. That's why it feels like you just can't breathe. That's why it just feels like you're smothered and all of them Gucci stuff. My name is Queen A, and I am a clarity coach. I help young to middle aged adults overcome self doubt by planting seeds in their mind to help them build confidence with clarity. That is the main reason why I came out with my book. This book right here is the go to for anybody that's feeling stuck and that's ready to come out of it and go to the next level. Like you feel like you stuck, you closed in. This is the book you need right here. Okay? I'm just gonna jump into it. So in this today, what a lot of people teach is past. Y'all can just throw that away in the past. Especially what they say, well, when one door closed, another one opens. Well, that's old news. That is old news. Yes, yes, yes. The reason why it's old news is because now we are living in a digital society. We are living in a time where we can access the world in a second versus back in the days we only had access to our neighborhood, right? You only had access to them four, blocks. That's about it. And whoever else you knew if you went and had access to another neighborhood. But for the most part, most people was confined to their little space. Hint why everybody is, down for their hood and just want to be there. What we're finding is though now that we have access thanks to internet and technology, we have access to be able to speak to people from all around the world. Hmm. So what that also entails is people feeling like a failure because they are starting to compare themselves more to people, right? They're looking at somebody's beautiful life over there. They're looking at this person on vacation. And then they looking at this person like, they just started, but they think they're doing so much. And in reality, not a lot is being done. See, a lot of people like to teach you that you can overcome failure. Well, Queen A don't teach that you overcome failure. Queen A teach you how to fail into success because think about it, you've been failing into success since you've been born. Yes, you've been failing into success since you've been born. Think about it. When you was first born, your head was bobbling, and it was like you can't hold your head up, so you had to learn how to hold your head up. Let me drink some water. Yeah, something stuck in my throat. Drink some water. It's that time of year. You gotta make sure I'm eating my fruits and stuff. But no, it was like your head bobbling, so you had to learn how to hold your head up. Then next thing you know, you start crawling. And did you just start like, no, you first time you start trying to crawl, you fail. Hey, I see you Denton. How you doing, sweetie? But the first time you tried to crawl, you failed. But what did you do? You kept attempting to crawl. And then eventually you got it. And then the next step. Now you're walking. But you didn't start off walking, right? No, you took a few steps and you might have failed, and you continued and continued until you succeeded. So I like to teach things as just steps, life lessons. That's what we teach that failures are. Okay. All right. So I'm going to turn let's see, chat filter. There we go. Yes, there we go. So, how you doing? So, yes, because we don't want no distractions. So, I am a clarity coach. And let me tell you this, I will block you if you distract anybody here that's coming here for true clarity. That's what we're here for. So, this is not a play around channel, a laugh around channel. You can go somewhere else with that. I would truly appreciate it for those that truly want clarity so they can come and focus in on what we're talking about, okay? So, like I was saying, think about when you start learning how to walk, them steps. Like now, what happens is after we walk, see, we are taught to view failure as we view it. We are taught that when something don't work out, that we give up and we try something different. We were taught these things, but we was born with intuition. We was born knowing that we can fail into success. We was born knowing that if I just keep on, right? If I just keep trying, I can succeed. Why? Because it's what I like to call the crown framework. Now, the crown framework is this right here. And it's my framework. It's Queen A's. Okay. I came up with this on my own. And I really want to tell y'all this crown framework, it goes to any principle that I teach. So I teach 13 principles and it aligns with all these principles right here. So the C is a lot of people feel like a failure because they don't have no clarity on where they're going. So, in order for you to even understand that failure is a life lesson, you have to get clarity on what it is you're trying to do. You have to get clarity on your values. You have to get clarity on your goals. You have to get clarity on who you are as a person. Think about it. If you was just, most people don't have no clarity. That's why they apply for this job and then they're in that field or they're in that relationship and then they're in that relationship, right? Because there's no clarity. And I could tell you, when I didn't have no clarity, I have done every job possible because I truly wasn't thinking about what my values. I truly wasn't thinking about my principles. All I thought about was a bag. And that's what we're seeing now here in this society is everybody just thinking about a bag. Nobody's truly thinking about, well, what do I value? What are my principles? So I can understand what kind of job I should be applying to. So I can understand what kind of education that I should be seeking. That is why a lot of people feel like they have a lot of what? Pressure on their mind because they got too many doors open in their mind because they have no clarity there. So that's why the first thing we teach is getting clear on what it is that you're trying to do, where you're trying to go. And then the R, right? Reality. So we focus on reality. A lot of people feel like a failure because they don't understand the fact over fiction. That's why they feel like a failure. A lot of people focus on their feelings, what they feel like. I feel like they was being funny. That's why they didn't choose me for that job. I feel like, it's because I'm black. I feel like we just have so many feelings going on that we can't hone in on the fact. The fact is that maybe you're not applying yourself because of your feelings. So maybe you're not applying yourself to the best of your ability because of based off of how you feel. Prime example for Queen A, right? I used to focus on the feeling of, money is the root of all evil. That's how I felt. I felt that money was the root of all evil because I was raised and I grew up religious thinking that that's what we was taught. Then it wasn't until I got clarity, right? When I started learning the crown framework until I start focusing on the fact over feeling the reality. The reality is money can't harm nobody. The reality is it's when people love money more than they love themselves. That's when it becomes a crime. That's when it becomes an issue. That's when it becomes the root to all evil. Think about that for a second. Is it really the money harming people? Or is it what people is trying to do for their money? And I can guarantee you, we can all agree that it's what people is out here trying to do to achieve the money. That's a fact, right? And then we go into the O, ownership. Maybe you feel like a failure or you've been failing because you're not taking ownership of the choices that you've been making. Did you know that you're in the space you're in now based on every decision that you've made throughout life, whether intentionally or unintentionally? It doesn't matter. We tend to be like, oh, you know what? I'm stuck in this situation. I can remember when I was a part of the roundtable movement here in Cincinnati, and we was walking through the neighborhood known as the T, and it's the biggest neighborhood here in Cincinnati, and it's the biggest hood here. And we was walking around there, and I could remember it like it was yesterday. It was a flood, a literal shit. Excuse my language. And when I started talking to the residents, the mind frame, right, of people was, man, well, I have to stay here. I don't have nowhere to go. What else am I going to do? And I'm talking about we got people where it's backing up into their sinks and their toilet, not their toilet, their tub. And they still, well, that's how they choose this, they stay there. And I tell you now, that is part of, we have to learn how to take ownership because that's a choice. See, we like to think that we're stuck there, but we think we're stuck there. We're stuck there because we feel like we're stuck there. We're stuck there because we feel like we can't go nowhere else. We feel like we don't deserve anything else. But the fact is, a lot of us haven't even applied ourselves to even see what we can afford to do or where we can go or even what else is available. Think about that for a second. Are you out there complaining? And if you are a complainer, think about the choices that you're making. We tend to have a complaint about our boss. Well, guess what? Are you taking ownership? Right? Are you a lazy worker? And if you're not a lazy worker and your boss is just really, somebody that's just doing too much, then take ownership. Am I applying for another job? Have I just decided to continue to sit here and complain? That's a choice. And a lot of us feel like a failure in those situations because of choices. We choose to not do nothing about it. We choose to just talk about it. He getting on my nerves. All you do is complain. They don't pay me nothing. They don't do nothing for us employees here. That's all you do. Instead of taking ownership and saying, well, I choose to stay here, so what am I complaining for? I already know he like this every time, so what am I, saying this for? That's taking ownership. And then the W. Most people in life feel like a failure now because of willpower. We don't have no willpower. And that's because studies show that the more we're online, right, the more we use AI and all these things, the more depressed we are, the more frustrated we are, the more anxiety we have, the more suicide, the more murders. Yes. Why is that? Because the more we're online, the less willpower we have for ourselves because we're looking at somebody else's life online. We're looking at somebody else's dream online. We're looking at people smiling online who, when they say, they cut the camera off, they might be crying. We don't know. We're looking at somebody who might have just dressed up to take a picture, and then after the picture, they ain't do nothing but sit on the couch. You don't even know. But we are basing our life off of what we seeing online, and it's taking away our willpower. And that's why a lot of us feel like a failure. We want to get you out of that. So you got to you got to have willpower. This is how you get it back if you want to know. This Crown Framework, I hope you're paying attention. Write it down. This is how you got to stop feeling like a failure. And then the last one is now. So we teach that you have to get clarity and focus on what the fact or feeling is, reality. You have to take ownership. You have to have some willpower, and you have to do it now, not tomorrow. Now just think about that. Why didn't I say tomorrow? Well, if you know, I didn't say tomorrow because Queen A teaches what? That tomorrow not ever comes. So if you watch Queen A, you already know that I teach that tomorrow don't ever come. So why would I tell you to do it later? Why would I tell you to do it in the future when clarity loves speed? Matter of fact, anything you're looking for really loves speed. It's when you start taking your time that you start doubting yourself and you start questioning everything. So do it now. But this is why a lot of people in this world feel like a failure, because a lot of us is basing our life off of what we're seeing online, off of somebody else's fake beauty scene online. Just look at Love and Hip Hop, all these reality shows, and how many people that actually want to be on reality shows. That'll let you know that we're not living in a real world online. People portray to be anything, who they want you to be. For instance, when I'm online, I'm Queen A. Now, don't get me wrong, when I'm offline, I'm Queen A as well. But of course, I act differently offline than on certain things. We all do. For instance, hint, right now, if I wasn't online, I wouldn't be dressed to be online, right? Unless I had something to do. That's clarity. That's understanding. Once I learned these things and that I'm teaching you, and I hope you're paying attention to, that's when my confidence start building. That's when I start gaining clarity for myself. That's when I start getting speaking engagements. That's when I became an author. That's when I got my own products. That's when I started teaching. But it was because I learned the Crown framework that it allowed me to do this and bring this to you all. So if you are a middle-aged aspiring entrepreneur and you feel like your head is in a fog, or you just feel like you have been trying, right? But it's like you're on a hamster wheel and this is all you can do. You see what I'm doing? My hand on my head. That's how you feel. You feel like you're in a funk, but you ready to move forward. You ready to build clarity. You need confidence in yourself. You just need that seed planted so you can water it and blossom. We building gardens over here, not just a flower. I hope y'all truly got something from this. I truly hope y'all got something from this. Understand that failure is not the end. It's not the end. You've been failing since you've been born. Think about it. When you first started your job, they were showing you something. Maybe it didn't work out the first time. You're like, can you show me again? Well, that's technically what they consider as a failure, right? A lesson. So I want y'all to tweak that again. So I want y'all to tweak that word failure and replace it with lesson. You didn't fail. You learned a lesson. You're not a failure. You're a lesson growing. Think about seeds. They struggle so much. Think about forget the seeds. Think about them big trees out there. Them big trees out there. Rain, sleet, or snow. Thunderstorming and all. They still stand strong. Right? They still stand strong through all of it. And these are just lessons. So even when you plant a seed, it don't grow the first time. That's not a failure. You got to tweak it, right? People plant trees or whatever. It didn't grow. You just, it didn't dig it deep enough. Maybe the soil wasn't correctly. Maybe I didn't water it correctly. Maybe I overwatered it. But once we get clarity, we go back and we try again. That's why I teach you the Crown framework. Once you learn that Crown framework, anything you encounter in your life, when you start feeling like a failure, you're going to think about the Crown framework. You're going to say, hold up, let me stop. Let me get clarity on this. Let me focus on the fact over feeling over this. Let me take ownership in my part in this, because I always have a part. And then let me get some willpower here. Where can I find it? And then let me do it now. Right? When you get that willpower, let me do it now. But that is how you reframe failure. That is how. By looking at it as a life lesson. Because if you don't, you're going to be miserable. You're going to miss out on so many great opportunities. And it ain't nobody fault but yours. All because you don't understand that you walk with failure. You don't walk away from it. You walk with it. You don't walk away from it. And that's my tip to you. So if you want to make sure that you keep walking with failures, because you fail into success, as any successful person that you know, they didn't become a success overnight. They felt that some things, right? Learned some things and they tweaked it and came back. That's what it is. That's what failure is about. So I want y'all to learn how to fail into success. Stop looking at it as the end. Failure is just the beginning. You have been failing since you've been born. You have been failing since you was an infant and you couldn't hold your head up, and then you learned how to hold your head up. That was a test. Since you learned you was crawling and you didn't succeed the first time, but you kept going and then on the walking, okay? So I really hope y'all gain something from this. Make sure y'all subscribe to this channel for more clarity. My name is Queen A again, and I am the Clarity Coach. And remember this, if nobody else loves you, Queen A does. Later. Mwah.